Brown. Welcome to LA Currents. The circus, cabaret, theater, fine art, travel writing, science fiction, education, dogs, and of course the creation of an all-female film festival. This is just a very short list of the accomplishments and loves of Susan diRende, all tied together in a very neat, irreverent, humorous bow. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today.
Thanks.
All right, I actually mentioned the fact that you started an all-female film festival entitled Broad Humor 14 years ago. There must have been some really interesting reason why you decided, oh, okay, I just think I'll start a film festival.
Actually, I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to make a movie. I just see this hasn't happening. You know, I'm a believer in if you see something's missing or wrong and you notice it, that's your job to fix it or to do it. So I came to LA. I fell in love with LA. First time I drove down Highland Avenue with the palm trees, I thought, oh, those are balloons. They're not palm trees, and it's a party. I felt like I'd entered into a party. But when I got here, I noticed some other things about LA. For one, I felt like I'd stepped back into the 1970s, which I remember, in terms of the relations of men and women.
Okay.
But still, you know, I had written scripts and was doing my own work in films, and I was part of Women in Film, and I saw work by other women, but I liked the work by other women, but wasn't getting into festivals.
Okay.
I mean, the LA Film Festival that year, the year we did this, for example, shorts programs of 6 or 7 films, and one of those 6 or 7 was a female. The one that had 8 films, there was 2 by a woman. And they were all, you know,
very dramatic.
Dramatic. There wasn't anything funny. And one thing I know about women is women are funny. Mm-hmm. The women I know make me laugh. That's what I go to social relationships for in many ways, is to laugh. Mm-hmm. And yet, you wouldn't know that women are funny, or certainly not then, by going to the movies or watching television. Women are serious. You know, that joke, how many feminists does it take to change a light bulb? That's not funny.
That is funny, actually.
But really, feminists aren't humorless. They're the publisher of my book. I made that same mistake. I was talking about a book I had written to a publisher at a conference of literary feminist speculative fiction. And you know, she said, oh, I'd be interested in reading it. And I said, but it's a farce. You know, it's got fart jokes and alien sex. And she went, we have a sense of humor. And it turns out, yes, they did. I had made that same mistake of thinking feminism and humor don't match. That they liked my book, so they have great senses of humor.
Well, and I'm going to add to the fact that they liked your book so much that it received a very high accolade and an award as well. So the name of the book, it's a science fiction book.
Called Unpronounceable.
Unpronounceable.
Yes.
Exactly. And it did win this award.
It won the Special Citation of Excellence by the Philip K. Dick Awards, which is, you know, pretty...
See, I told
small
you.
publisher, but
so many things that you're interested in.
And a humor book that won an award.
Exactly.
So this is my experience of women, and yet women weren't anywhere. So I said, I'm going to start a festival of women's humor.
Okay.
You know, I even hired a publicist, but she had problems that year because people would ask her, who is she to do this festival? And it's like, like I have to be somebody? Well, I'm me. And it needs doing, and so we did it. We did it financed by the Bank of Susan. So it's very small. It was very small to begin with. It's grown a lot, and the number of films we've gotten have grown. The landscape has changed, you know, in women's humor. We're getting more films.
So what were you looking for exactly? Because I imagine that the first year there was X amount of films, and now there are a lot of films, and then you put them up. But what was it that you were looking for, and how did you express that to these women screenwriters?
And directed by women.
Okay.
And the reason is that every scientific thing we notice about conversation and what women do is that they change in the presence of men. So a script written by women and men, I figured, would be different. Or a woman's script directed by a man wouldn't have that female something that's there, because it's just clear that when there's one man in a group of 6 women, the conversation changes.
Okay.
So I wanted, the writer and the director are the generative artists. Everybody else in film, in other things, it's just the writer, but in film, the writer is actually writing it the director rather is actually writing it as well in how they set the shots and timing, because comedy's timing.
Okay.
So a director controls timing, so a director controls the laughs. I mean, the editor has a play too. I don't mean to disparage the editors, but final say about timing is the director. In theater, the writer is king because in theater, the writer controls time. You're not allowed to change the words at all. But in a screenplay, that just isn't the case. So I wanted written and directed by women both. I went to a women's organization at the time that shall remain nameless, which since folded, and asked them if they were interested in working with me on this. One, they didn't know who I was, and two, they said, you can't do written and directed by women. There aren't any good ones. We know, we judge other festivals. So I backed away from that table, and we had year one. I had a Belgian filmmaker, producer who I worked with before, and she was one of the co-founders with me, and she worked on it for a couple of years. And we put together a festival that first year. We got a lot of films. We had two venues. Oh yeah, yeah. And you know what else? Our very first comedy program, we'd had the talk back, and after the talk back, somebody raised their hand and said, "This is the best short film program I've ever been to in my life, and I go to all the film festivals. Why don't you submit to the big, like, HBO comedy festivals?" And of the directors that were there, 3/4 of them raised their hand, and they said they didn't get in. And he said, "Wow, I'm going to have to talk to my friend who runs that festival." Well, that didn't happen.
Okay, so cut to 14 years later. The festival is the end of every summer, and this year it's going to be August 29th to September 1st.
Right.
So what have you seen come down the pike for this year's festival? Over the years, have there been more submissions, different submissions, less submissions, a different dynamic? Because the world has, in theory, progressed somewhat when it comes to women creatives.
The world's progressed some. We've actually had influence, like the University of Florida Film Program is now encouraging their young women to make comic films because there is a festival they know that if it's halfway decent they'll get into, and that's ours. At first, so that we're actually having an influence at the grassroots level. So you've got the big names at the top level, top down, but see, they still have to deal with the big distribution companies who are mostly run by a different algorithm, shall we say, an algorithm that thinks that's 9 inches. Not really, but anyway.
Kind of got that right.
That's a joke, but probably it's whatever. Pung. But so the middle is getting, is where it has to, the big change has to happen, but it's coming from both ends. Okay. But certainly it's changed. It's no longer the first year tagline we had is no longer as much as appropriate. The first year tagline was "Comedies by women? You must be joking."
Okay,
so
that's cute.
But it's cute. But now it's not. We know women are funny. We have. So that's no longer the right tagline. But in the first years, people gave a big laugh because you're right. Comedies by women? You must be joking. Right. So that's changed. What's also changed is me. Although I'm not involved in the day-to-day working of the festival. I haven't for about 4 or 5 years. 4 years, heading. But for the first 9 years, I watched every movie and read every screenplay, every single one, to the end. And something happened to me. I mean, I just went into this to see, are women really not funny? Do audiences not like it? We found out that's not the case. Audiences do like these movies. It's just structured differently from the mainstream structure, but just as in writing there are many different structures that are successful, we don't have the same breadth in filmmaking because it's so expensive to make films. Digital has really changed that.
Sure.
So I started noticing different things. I noticed that women don't tend to write in one sort of restricted genre. They tend to have multiple genres. And I'm not
all in one project?
Yeah,
or?
Mixing they blend the genres a lot. And it's across the board, it's very common. Even when they're trying to write to one genre, they can't help just throwing a little one at. And I'm certainly not one to say you should stick to one thing because my life hasn't been that.
No, not even slightly.
And the second thing I noticed is that I noticed that women's stories tended to focus on the world and the hero's journey through the world. And when we did workshopping and things, they would change the hero or heroine to bring the most of the humor out of the world. Whereas the main model is you start with the hero, the sort of what I want to call the Aristotelian model, which is following one hero all the way through the thing to the single climax and then the cigarette. So women don't tend to do that.
Right. Sorry.
Women tend to write, multiple high points, climaxes, and it's mirroring their kind of life experience, saying, "Oh, that was fun. Oh no, wait, something else coming. It might be. Oh no, that. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, good. Oh, there's another one coming. Yeah, good." So I like to say that women's humor is a way for men to experience the multiple orgasms women take for granted, and trust me, everybody likes that.
Yes.
So, but it's still not something that they're paying for at the $10 million level.
Right.
But it's changing.
Right. Okay, but along those lines, I mean, we were talking about this oh so slightly before. People's threshold of what they find to be comedically appropriate. We have at one end of the spectrum, we have all this freedom and liberty to express all of those happy little O's, and then on the other side of the spectrum, there is this sensitivity factor that might be, I don't know, is it affecting what you're seeing? Is it changing how women are expressing themselves, or what is funny?
It's changing what's funny. And a lot of people call it PC, but mean is just not funny. And now we're starting to see that, oh, that wasn't just women being too sensitive, that was mean.
What's mean?
And mean is ugly. It's not funny, it's ugly. So the question is, how do you know what's ugly and what's funny? And that's just, you can't get a clear answer for that. Then it's not the arts, then it's, then it's simply engineering. You can't engineer a story. A story has to touch you in a place that's very ineffable. You want to call it soul, you want to call it spirit, but it's something that touches you in a place where you know yourself, but also know there's something more. And what humor does is it takes you over. You laugh. You're out of control, and it opens something.
Right.
And that opening can only happen if you're relaxed. So if you have power and you say something demeaning to someone, that person can't laugh. They're not relaxed. So
they're hurt.
So certainly women making fun of men when men had all the power, and men making fun of women when men had all the power, that's not parallel. I mean, it'd be really nice sometime if we could have jokes that are equal. I mean, if you want to ask if we live in a post-racist society or post-sexist society, can you make a joke about anything and have people laugh, or are they going to be touchy? If they're touchy, it means maybe they're not able to, it isn't an even power balance. Maybe you should respect that, even if you want your free speech and you want to be able to make humor about anything. You could consider that for you it's funny, but for them it's mean.
You have made a science in your own life of observing humanity and expressing it in a wide array of, you truly, literally ran away to be in the circus.
Yeah.
You've done a cabaret show in Washington, D.C.
Washington State. Seattle.
There you go. All right. You have traveled the world. You were an artist in residence for the country of New Zealand for a while. You've written travel writing. You also have writers' groups that you go with to Italy. All of this play into what you feel humanity is expressing to itself, or you're talking about all these different things that you do, or are you just so passionately in love with the world that you need to express it in a multitude of ways?
I don't know if it's a virtue or that I'm broken and that I don't figure anybody else is going to help me, so I might as well just do it myself. I've been told all my life, if you want to be good at something, just stick to the same thing. I won a book award and I won this major playwriting grant, and I won, I've gotten whatever. I do get kudos. I don't have to stick to one thing. I have this really fun life. I want to do this cabaret character. Well, I'll start a cabaret. I want to see more films by women. Okay, I'll start a film festival. I'm kind of stuck. What should I do? I know, I'll sell everything and hit the road. For 5 years I've been on the road.
How has that been?
Wonderful. I thought it was going to be for 1 year. I have had trouble deciding to settle down. So I'm doing a halfway settle down now. It's going to be 6 months. It's going to be summers in Europe. Oh dear, Italy. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's tough. But then the rest of the year I don't know where I'm going to be. I have 2 or 3 different options. And I don't have a lot of money. I never made a lot of money. I spent it all on things like film festivals, but I have a little tiny pension from teaching. I get even less little from my books, a little bit, and I live really frugally. I house sit, dog sit, but I house sit, dog sit in beautiful places, and then I find ways to stay cheaply here, or I go and do a residency there, and in the end I can live on what most people would consider poverty wages.
But you're creative in how you do it, because one of the things that I was really impressed with is the fact that this miniature series you had actually stemmed from the fact that all of these credit card blanks were just going to get tossed.
Right.
And you said, nope, I'll take them and I'll travel the world with them and I will paint what I see.
Yeah, because I had always wanted to do a travel journal, and every time I buy them, the page order always struck me as a problem. I didn't ever like having the book. So when someone had a box of 7,000 credit cards sent to them by mistake, or a box of 1,000, they got sent 7, I got a, in little packets of 100. Can you do something with this? I thought, yeah, I'll see if they work as travel writing, journalism, travel art. And well, what are you going to write on them with? Sharpie. It's made to write on plastic. So I started with 3 Sharpie pens and a package of 100, it's about this big, block of credit cards. And it turned out to really be fun. And so I went with that. I wasn't planning on it, but serendipity is there all the time. I've been on the random road for a while. You can go with the program plan, but there's also something, that's the left brain, and that's really great to have a dream and build toward it. But also it's good to have a right brain dream and have a garden and toss the seeds and pluck the weeds and, oh, that weed is actually kind of pretty. Let it grow, work over here. That's kind of my motto. I want people to have more examples of folks that don't do sort of the what I call the I don't want to call it the corporate mindset, but it's a mindset that has to do with businessman mindset, or it's that you should narrow your vision and go for that. There's also the gardener's mindset. Let's have a garden. Then make my life as a garden. So you can pull things up. You can toss some seeds and just see what grows.
Well, and what is grown from your film festival, which I think is
we should
pretty
come back to, yes.
Well, that's but
that's
this is a great segue. Is the fact that it's not just a once-a-year festival. It has become a community of women who enjoy each other's company, find support, inspiration, a way to educate themselves, create a longer shelf life than just the 3 days of the festival.
Right.
And so I would imagine that must be very fulfilling for you to know that what you did as...
What's fulfilling is that I left 5 years ago the day-to-day running of the festival, and it's still going on. Other people are doing it. To me, if anybody out there has started a nonprofit or an event and been able to walk away and have it still live, that doesn't happen very often. So I'm blessed with that. That's, I get to come back and be the founder and have a workshop and talk about, what the place of comedy is in the world today, which is a really tough place. On both the left and the right, we have assaults on free speech, but also given the internet and the power of it, I'm a real big free speech advocate, but I also have questions about the sort of way we think of it, in the founding fathers Enlightenment way. We haven't found something better, but there is a problem with the great disparity of resources and what's happening. So I feel like we're in a real great time of sort of revisioning sort of speech, and that has to do with because of issues of race. So I don't like how people get caught in the PC is deadly or PC is whatever, or you have to restrict these speech or you have to allow everything. I don't have an answer to that. So comedy and drama are going to transgress, but also it's a great opportunity for people to do wonderful things with the arts, and the arts can matter where the world is, where the world is stuck. One of the things that the arts do in general is lay the foundation for roads in the wilderness. So it doesn't happen too much in the movie business, but a festival like Broad Humor does, because we're not the movie business. I don't promise to get them attached to agents. We don't bring in corporate anything. This festival to date has really been about the filmmakers. It's about about having them be able to see their work in a place where people they don't know are enjoying it.
Right.
And to get that hit of saying, oh, my work has value. The system may not support me. The institutional framework might not be there, but my work has value. It's why we're one of the only film festivals that has a reading of every finalist screenplay, a chunk of it. We have a session, they pick a scene, we get actors, there's a lot of great actors in LA who are willing to do it just to show up. And so they pick their scene, and then they get to sit in an audience while their characters come to life. Because if you're a screenwriter, unless the film is produced, and produced well, you can hand it to people to read, but they don't
until it comes alive. You don't
so
really see
we've
it.
been doing that since the second year. We didn't do it the first year, and I felt that it was wrong that this filmmaker, that the writers paid the same fee, and got just a chance at a prize. So now they can come to the festival. They can meet directors. They can have other people hear their work. They can have make some partnership. But also they get to have, at least for that weekend, their work be alive and have an audience response to it. That's really all we can offer.
All of the screenings are at the Electric Lodge in Venice.
Right.
However, it has been overseas.
We've done a number of things just because I have connections in Europe. We'd had 1 year we went to Rome. We had a connection in Rome, and so we had Broad Humor Goes to Rome, and the films were screened for the English-speaking audience. The English Theater of Rome was interested in having us come. We performed in a theater which is where it was underground in the old part of Rome, where Botticelli used to paint, or Raphael, one of those. I think it was Raphael.
Okay.
Sorry.
I would have said wow to either.
Well, either one. And so it's a really beautiful stone room underground. You could be back anywhere, and then you're sitting in bleachers, and the embassy crowd and the English-speaking crowd came, and it was just a real lovely experience for the filmmakers. Again, it's for the filmmakers to feel like their work is a part of the world. Ursula Le Guin started out writing literary fiction, and she couldn't get a publisher. And she looked at the field, and at the time, it was a lot easier to get published in fantasy and science fiction. So she moved to where she could get published. And she said, because it's all very well to write for yourself, but it's a little bit like masturbation. It's satisfying, but ultimately sterile. Even a few people seeing your work who are strangers, not your friends, seeing your work and taking pleasure in it, it's the same as if it was 30,000 people. I mean, it's not the same financially. But as long as you get away from the monetary model that rules our lives, there's great satisfaction, joy, and empowerment. You have to be powerful to try to make humor. You're taking someone over. Women aren't used to that. It's not something we think of women doing, is taking possession of someone's body and shaking laughter out of them. It's a powerful thing. And so even if we just encourage women to make more comedy, we're encouraging more female power. It's powerful to make humor. It's just power.
So you've done a lot of things, as we've mentioned. Is there something that you are still hoping you will have the opportunity to do, or are you just ready to, if someone hands you a box of something that they don't know what to do with, or if
Oh, that sounds fun! Something I've never done before. I mean, the way to hook me is something that I've never done before. I mean, to me, that's the most exciting thing to try. Can I do it? I don't know. But what would I like to do? I have an idea for a web series.
Okay.
But high production values. I have a title, I have the story. I want to use the story of Medea, but I want it to be funny and actually to do it as a vlog web series, not as shot like a film, but like a vlog.
Okay.
I have a show I'd like to do in the theater. You asked me, I have one in every, So for theater, I want to do a show where I actually perform in it about what they call a visionary artist, a woman from the early 20th century who was institutionalized because she conceived that she thought she and the Kaiser were intimately involved. Who knows what happened, because she was in the Kaiser's household as a dressmaker for a while.
Okay.
So while in the institution, she started painting these magnificent paintings, beautiful, full of life and love, and she never left the institution in the rest of her life. So I picture a show where she has to choose between this beautiful world of her imagination and the world that's going to expect her to act like a Swiss matron dressmaker. And in the course of the show, I want to paint the whole theater. I want to paint.
So this is a one-woman show in which you are performing that particular character.
That's an idea. So I have projects like this, and I have 2 books that I've still not gotten publishers for that I'm still shopping around. One that uses the artwork, called A Year in Miniature, because I did an artwork a day, and then I wrote about the experience a little bit like, I guess the big picture, the bestseller variant is Eat, Pray, Love, but it's different. A Year in Miniature. So it's a journey at 60.
Right.
Because I was 60, then somehow I got younger, but I was, no, I didn't get younger, I'm older now. And so I'd like to see that book have a life. And then
And your baby, what about the film festival? What do you hope for it? What do you want it to do? How do you want it to
in my
progress?
dreams, the film
Yes.
festival expands to be the broad humor publications where we publish stories and humorous books by women, broad humor theater festival with plays, broad humor stand-up festival for women's comedy, stand-up, to do all the ways in which broads, the definition of a broad on the internet is a woman who throws a mean punch. Mean punchline? Boom, boom. So I'd like to have this broad humor idea expand to all the creative venues. It could be even painting. I mean, humor in art
would be a refreshing thing. But even the definition of broad, not in the female sense, is bold and...
I love language.
I know. And so,
love
which was another
language.
great thing. You must have done the Snoopy dance when you realized that you could call it the Broad Humor Film Festival, because that has so many underlying meanings and it's just creatively fantastic.
Yeah, I do the Snoopy dance a lot. I actually do the Snoopy dance I love ideas. Even if they just die because no one, I want ideas that other people will play with me on. If I'm going to do it on my own, I can write, I can paint. Anything else like the vlog, web series, like the play, I want playmates. So I have these ideas, but if someone else has an idea and it sounds fun to me, I'll do that because I want to play with, I like doing it with, that's the Snoopy dance for me. Right. It doesn't get any better than to have other people that you're working with on a creative project, whether it's a film festival, a film, both of those are great. Every woman should make a film. Just everyone. It's because you're in charge. You have to make a lot of decisions. Women are, I think, ideal for film because we're used to
multiple things.
We're raised to have to keep tabs on all these different tiers of importance and different desires, so that we have a three-dimensional view of the world in how, not a ladder, but actually a sort of globe, sort of a top that's spin. No, I don't know what image. I haven't got a good image. Never mind. But garden is about as close as I get.
I like the garden.
So,
I like the garden. Weeds and all.
We live there, whether it's nature or nurture. That's our talent. So yeah, being on a set, having to make 100,000 decisions in a day, and then having to keep the story afloat and the people afloat, and have the qualities, technical qualities there, and also take care of yourself, because if you don't sleep, you don't function. Correct. And all of that together, everybody should make a movie.
Okay, and if they decide to do that in the next year, no more submissions for this year, because as I mentioned, the practical nature of this is that the film festival is August 29th through September 1st. So
this year is sure. But you can come this year and see if there's anything you like, and maybe find people that you can hang out with. Right. And you could volunteer if you can't afford the pass. Right. Because that way you get to really hang out with the filmmakers. It's actually rather fun.
And prep your movie for the next year's submissions.
And then you also can sort of, toss your ideas around and
and have an opportunity to come and meet you. Are you there all 3 days?
I may not be there. I probably won't be there this year. Okay. I might fly back for it, but I am, because I don't have enough going on in my life. I'm buying a very small house in Italy on the mountain where my grandmother.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. On the mountain where my grandmother was born. So it's really small.
Okay.
It's livable, but
Okay.
I'm going to buy the house, and then I'm going to take out the mosaic tiles and do
something arty.
And then I'll have a place to paint in the summers.
That sounds absolutely perfect. It has been delightful to chat with you. You are just really a remarkable role model, inspiration, and a breath of fresh air to hang out with, and you're very, very funny. So congratulations.
Yes, funny there.
Yes, there you go.
Thank
Funny.
you.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. You're quite the inspiration and an incredible person, and I really appreciate that.
You going to make a movie?
I kind of think I have to now.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Okay. And for more information about the festival, you can log on to broadhumorfilmfest.com.